Hi, welcome to my video giving you my top 5 personal favourite movies from 2022. So it was actually quite hard to narrow this down to a top 5 because I thought there was really quite a lot of good movies that came out this year. A lot of really good films that came out in horror and a lot of really good blockbusters, which isn't usually my thing, big action blockbusters. But this year we had quite a few that took me by surprise. So it was quite interesting putting together, looking back over all the movies that I saw this year and picking out my very top 5 of those. It wasn't the easiest, but I'm pretty content with this list, so let's get into it. So number 5 on my list is going to be Glass Onion. This is the new Knives Out film by Rian Johnson. Not exactly a sequel because it takes place in a new place with a completely new cast, with the only returning character being the detective played by Daniel Craig. But I actually enjoyed this one even more than I did the first one. I thought the first one was a really good film, but some of the humour didn't land as well for me. Whereas this one, I got a lot of laughs out of this. It was really, really entertaining. I just thought it was a really well written, well plotted film. A lot of great twists that kind of work on a rewatch as well. I found going back and seeing this a second time, all the little details you didn't notice the first time made it really interesting to see again. So yeah, extremely entertaining film. You've got a great cast here, having people like Ed Norton here, who's an extremely underrated actor. I really love when he gets roles in current films. You've got other people here like Kate Hudson and Dave Bautista. And yeah, it just worked really well, fast paced, good dialogue. It's just really nicely edited as well. Like a lot of the song choices, all the music throughout, and how it's interwoven with the editing, it just makes for such an enjoyable film. So don't be put off by that long run time. I found that it really flew by for me. So definitely make your own judgment about this film. I know the critics have been a little bit harsh on this one. I've noticed quite a few harsh critic reviews that I honestly don't agree with at all, to be honest. So go out and see this for yourself and make your own decision. And it's definitely deserving of the number 5 spot on my list. So my number 4 choice is going to be Avatar: The Way of Water. So this is James Cameron's long-awaited Avatar sequel. And I was a little bit skeptical going into this one, just because of how many years it had been, a lot of build-up and expectation on this film, and the idea of having 4 additional sequels. I was worried this was just going to provide like a little piece of that overall story. But actually, no, I came out of this from seeing it at the cinema, and I was pretty blown away by it. All of the visual effects work, absolutely stunning. This amazing world, so immersive. I really enjoyed just being in this film for 3 hours in a different world. And what I liked about it, and what I think it actually built on from the original, was from a plot perspective and a character development perspective. It did a much better job, I think, really fleshed out these characters to have you more invested in them. And a little bit more of an interesting plot going on here as well. And I think just the fact that you actually felt there were genuine stakes. So when it gets to all the action at the end, you worry more about the characters because you're so invested in them. And the way it kind of plays out puts them in dangerous situations where it's not as predictable as the first. I really didn't know who was going to make it out of certain situations alive. And that just made all of the final action set pieces for me just way more exciting. So yeah, I would definitely go and see this whilst it's still in cinema. It's a fantastic film. I'm really glad I got to see it. And yeah, definitely coming in at my number 4 spot. So number 3 on my list is going to be X. This is the first part of Ty West's horror trilogy. And honestly, this was one of the best horror slashers I've seen in the past 5 years. It's kind of harkening back and taking inspiration from a lot of those 70s classic horror films, stuff like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But in my opinion here, just done with a way better production, much better acting, and yeah, just a way more wild story. I absolutely loved what Ty West did here, especially that first half where you've got, it's kind of like 2 parts of the movie. You have the first half where you have this group going out to a ranch where they're filming this porn video, and it's got a lot more of the entertaining, a lot of funny moments. And then the second half, it goes in a completely wild direction and goes into a full-blown horror, really bloody, really extreme. But I actually just loved every single minute of this. It's got a really great cast as well. You know, Mia Goth leading this, playing our main character, and also the old woman. She just does an incredible job here, and I really hope she gets more movies after this. I've seen her a lot of more kind of side parts over the years in a number of films, but yeah, having her here at the front, she really carries this. I thought she was great. And just, yeah, a lot of really intense sequences, a lot of unpredictable stuff here. So if you're a horror fan and you haven't seen X yet, please go out and watch this one. You definitely won't regret it. Fantastic film, and number 3 on my list. My number 2 choice is going to be Top Gun Maverick. To me, this is like the perfect action blockbuster. You know, having Tom Cruise lead and him being a guy that's willing to do basically any crazy stunt purely for our entertainment, just makes the action so fantastic. Just kind of being there with that character and knowing that there's as little CGI used as possible, and you know, you're really with him there in the action. I just love how much him and the rest of the cast committed to these roles by actually going up and training in jet fighters, all for the photography and filming of this movie. It is quite astonishing. For me, it's as good as action in a film really can get. And I just love aviation and jet fighters and all that kind of stuff as well. So it was just super exciting action scenes for me, and I loved every single minute of it. But beyond that as well, I think the movie does actually have a lot of heart. It tells a good story, you know, following Tom Cruise's character of Maverick, who's, you know, he's a guy who's getting older and he's kind of finding his place, knowing that he's no longer kind of a young man. You know, he's kind of one of those guys that was built to do one thing and one thing only. And he kind of needs to realise that getting older, he has to kind of move on from certain aspects of his life. And also as well, the relationship he had with Goose's son as well, and how it starts off as this very broken relationship, given the events of the past that, you know, Maverick's forced to face with. I really love how they developed the two characters together, helped by the fact as well that Miles Teller as well is just a fantastic actor. So having the two of them here together, really, really good character interactions between the two of them. It's definitely a better film than the original as well. I do think it's good to see the original beforehand, just because it gives a little bit more context to the relationship between Maverick and Rooster. Kind of gives you a bit more reason to care about that story here. You could still go into this and just enjoy this as a film in its own right, but I think it does just make that story a little bit better, and will have you more invested if you have seen the original. But yeah, the original had a few problems. You know, it was quite a cheesy film and had a few issues. So I do think this is definitely a better film though than that first one. But yeah, just such an entertaining film. I had a smile on my face through the entire runtime of this, and a really insane off-the-scale action sequence right at the end of the film. So if I'm excited to see this one again, I really do recommend this if you haven't seen it yet. It's going to be the number 2 on my list. So my number 1 film of the year is going to be The Batman. So this is Matt Reeves' reboot of Batman. I just absolutely loved what they did with the tone and the atmosphere of this. Kind of taking inspiration from a film like Seven, you know, where you have this kind of dark, very gritty place where it's raining all the time and there's corruption and horror around every corner. And you've got, you know, this portrayal of Batman, who's this kind of very disturbed and reclusive character, because of all the horrific things he sees and has to deal with every day. And he kind of questioning what his place is and who he should be and how he feels about a lot of these things. I think the portrayal from Robert Pattinson just displayed this perfectly. You know, he really does seem like a character who is a very disturbed, very quiet and reserved person. But when also he needs to be the Batman and take on people and confront people, he does have that intimidation and shows that brutality as well, which is very convincing. I think he's probably the best portrayal of Batman that I've ever seen. I really liked what they did here. I think it was fitting of what a character like the Batman should be in real life if it was ever to happen. I feel like that would be the most true to how a vigilante fighting in a place in a city like Gotham, that's what they would actually be like. So I really loved that portrayal here. I love they had a lot of really complex villains as well, you know, like the Penguin played by Colin Farrell and the Riddler. played by Paul Dano. Kind of this character that's, you know, a serial killer who's trying to uncover a lot of the corruption, but you're not entirely sure of the intentions behind what he's doing and why he's leaving these messages for Batman. So it's kind of like a mystery as well that keeps you guessing throughout the film, on top of being this kind of very interesting character. There was just a lot to this film. It was a very ambitious film, and I really loved how a lot of the story arcs concluded. And again, the way it ended, kind of giving that symbol of hope still, despite being such a dark movie. I think it was just concluded really well. I'm actually really hoping they give us a sequel to this, because I'd really welcome that. I think there's so much you could do with this Batman. With, you know, they teased another villain obviously at the end of the film. And I think there's so much more you could do. So I really hope they stick with this interpretation of Batman and go on to do more with this, because I thought this was an absolutely incredible movie, an incredible superhero movie, and definitely coming in at my #1 movie of the year. So thank you very much for watching my top 5 movies of the year list. I'll leave a link here for the review I did for Avatar: The Way of Water, where I go into a few more of my in-depth thoughts on that movie. So if you're interested in that, please click on the link. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my video, and I'll see you next time.